Corla. Minister, in my contribution, I want to largely refer to comments made by the Taoiseach earlier, and there are certainly one or two points I want to take issue with. He said we needed a debate to draw out what we mean by neutrality. And of course, this motion this morning is certainly doing that. We do need that debate, and that is what we are having here this morning. But I note that the government amendment, you say, that the government is committed to a Dáil debate on the outcome of the consultative forum that you established, and that you will consider in this light whether to bring forward a set of specific follow-up actions and policy recommendations building on the report of the forum, etc. Minister, you accuse us of closing down the debate, whereas in fact your amendment considerably narrows the focus of the debate. Your proposal, as I said, is to debate the outcome of the forum and bring forward, if appropriate, recommendations building on its report. If that's the extent of the discussion, rather than a broader, open discussion on neutrality, and this motion would certainly be a useful part of this discussion, if that's the extent of your proposals, then you need to examine your conscience, as the Taoiseach already said, about closing down aspects of this important debate. I don't consider this motion to be the final word on any discussion on neutrality. Far from it. But it is an open, reasonably balanced attempt to look at many of the different aspects that impact on our neutrality. Again, your motion says, and I quote, "The government does not believe a referendum enshrining neutrality in the Constitution is appropriate." So, Minister, it seems you have already made that decision before any debate, before any discussion. And you say we are the ones closing down the possibility of drawing out what is meant by neutrality. I would have thought, Minister, that any referendum on neutrality would be the end point of very detailed discussions, rather than a decision being taken that it wouldn't even be considered. Now, I agree with the Taoiseach regarding simplistic constitutional amendments. They would hold real risks, but nobody is suggesting simplistic constitutional amendments. We didn't suggest wording. We simply suggested that work needs to be done to find a wording and then put that to the people. Taoiseach, I would have thought that our Constitution provides the very foundation for our action on neutrality. The Defence Amendment Act 1960, which stipulated that overseas deployment of our defence forces could only happen with UN approval, and a resolution by the Dáil, was built on by the Triple Lock Amendment to our Constitution as part of the Nice Treaty. So saying that we cannot or should not touch our Constitution in order to refine or update it in regard to our policy on neutrality as a starting point rather than an end point to any discussion is, in my view, closing down certain aspects of the debate. The Taoiseach said that this motion, if passed, would constrain the executive's ability to exercise its policy-making and authority in respect to the conduct of external relations articulated in Article 29 of the Constitution. I'd certainly like to see more clarity on that, Minister. I've looked very carefully at what we called for. We called to affirm and reiterate our steadfast commitment to neutrality, to hold a referendum, to maintain and strengthen our role as a responsible, non-aligned, impartial nation, to continue to support international peacekeeping, to work to raise the awareness of neutrality, to ensure the inspection of civilian warplanes to be lawful, to properly fund and resource our defence forces, and confirm and ensure that Irish Defence Forces personnel are not and will not be involved in lethal weapons training to foreign military forces. Can you tell me how would any of that constrain the ability of the executive to act What actions are you thinking of taking that would be constrained by this? Minister, this motion is a reasonable ask. We want to be part of the debate on neutrality, and we want to see that it is not constrained by being based only on the recommendations of the forum.